Welcome back to another video. I am pleased to report that I feel like a new woman today. If you have watched the last video, you will know that I have been struggling with getting enough sleep and it's really been impacting me. Yesterday, for my day one of week 4, because we are on week 4 of the block now, I felt awful, like genuinely awful, had a thumping headache all night. But in order to course correct and take accountability and actually keep on top of things and make this deficit as smooth sailing as possible and just actually look after myself, I was in bed last night at 8:30 and I was sound asleep by probably 9:15. I was watching a bit of TV until I felt quite sleepy, turned the TV off about 9 o'clock, and I think I was sound asleep within about 10-15 minutes of that. And I kind of naturally woke up around 6-ish this morning, but I didn't actually get up until just after 7. So I definitely feel rested and ready to go today, which I am so happy about, because compared to how I felt yesterday, I feel literally like a new person. So very, very glad that I did that, and I'm going to stick with it now. Like, I actually spoke to my boyfriend about this and I was like, we need to get in bed earlier, because quite often I will get in bed, but he'll be staying up and doing other things until about an hour or so after I've gone to bed. But we have locks on our doors because Zuko can work every single door handle. And basically, if I go to bed first, I can't lock the door, because if I lock the door, then my boyfriend can't get in, so I'd have to get up and let him in anyway when he does then come to bed. So Zuko will break in when I go to bed on my own, and then my boyfriend has to kick him out when he comes to bed, and it wakes me up, and I just can't get into a deep sleep knowing that that's all gonna happen. So last night, he did actually agree to just start coming to bed a bit earlier, and gonna make sure he sticks to it, because it does impact obviously my sleep as well. So yeah. Very happy about that and just feel so much better. The goal for me is going to be to try and be in bed by 9 on weekdays. Granted, Tuesdays, Wednesdays when I'm training, that is harder, but it's Wednesday today, it's 5 to 5 currently. This SBD day doesn't take me that long. I can get it done in just over an hour if I just crack on and get it done. The only thing that's heavy really is squats, and even they're not that heavy. So if I can just kind of trudge through, get it done in good time, then we should be able to go and do our accessories. Got cardio to do tonight as well, because I didn't feel up to it last night. I think we should do 20 minutes on the cross trainer most likely, just kind of zone 2 steady state. And then I want to do one more small dog walk. I have also already prepped my dinner for tonight for when I get back. I did some meal prep earlier to try and be as organized as possible, which I'm very proud of myself for. Also, the heater is on literally right next to me, so if you can hear humming in the background, apologies for that. But it's too cold to turn it off, and I need the room to heat up before I start. But yeah, I was gonna run through some Q&A questions in this video. I put a question box up on my Instagram yesterday, and I basically just wanted to run through some of the questions on here rather than answering them all on Instagram. I answered a few on there, and then I was like, I want to crack on and get some stuff done, so I'm just gonna not do this right now. I'll just save them for a YouTube video. So let's run through some. I'm just loading them up now. So first question was, how are you feeling with your cut? I'm actually feeling great, as long as I keep on top of as much as I possibly can. So in terms of my externals, my sleep, which already touched on that, I just need to be on better with my sleep. That's the main thing that lets me down. I need to stick with consistent sleep times, actually getting 8-9 hours a night, every single night without failure. And then I know I'll be fine. That's the only thing that really impacts me, because that has a massive impact on my appetite and just my energy levels in general. I get headaches and stuff when I don't sleep enough. So there's that. Also just staying on top of stress as well, which is something I've been working on massively over the last few months anyway. I got into a period of having really regular migraines last year, and they were definitely linked to stress. So I've been really trying to keep on top of that, and I'm definitely doing so much better with it. So in terms of how I'm feeling with my cut, honestly, fine, great. The only thing that I think I struggle with, other than obviously when I don't get enough sleep, is that my calories are so low. I can't really fit in things that I enjoy out. I enjoy all my meals, don't get me wrong, but I can't really fit in, if I want a pizza, or if I want a donut, or if I want a sweet treat. It's not overly easy to fit in, and if I do fit it in, I then don't really have a lot of actual food left for the day. So my calories are basically too low for me to kind of include foods that I enjoy, but it is a very short-term thing. I mean, last Friday, I still hit my calories, and I did also have a muffin in there, so it's not like I can't do it. It just means that actually my overall food volume is going to be that much smaller, that I then end up being hungrier, which is kind of is it worth being hungry just to have these sweet treats, for example? Not really. And it's a short-term thing anyway. This cut is only a few weeks long. It's just to get me through to British bench, which I absolutely signed up for myself. Someone asked, how are squats and deads feeling since losing weight so quickly? Honestly, fine. My squat, I've said this before, my squat feels best when I am a little bit lighter anyway, because I prefer squatting narrow. When I'm closing in on that 90 kilo body weight, I can't actually squat that narrow. Like, my body gets in the way. I carry a lot of my body fat in my upper body, and it essentially gets in the way when I try and squat narrow. So as I get lighter and closer to my weight class, generally my squats feel better and better because I'm able to just bring my stance in ever so slightly, hit depth more comfortably in that narrow stance, and everything just feels more solid. And I definitely noticed last week that squats are feeling the smoothest they have so far. So definitely think in terms of leverages, it's not the common way, like usually more body weight means stronger squat. But for me personally, my squat definitely feels better when I'm a little bit lighter. Deadlifts, to be honest, it's hard to gauge because sumo is still relatively new for me. I'm still perfecting it, I'm still tweaking it, we're still working on refining it and making it more natural. So I think even if I was sitting heavier, it would keep feeling better and better regardless. So I can't really say in terms of like how my leverage changes and stuff are gonna affect it, obviously lower calories and stuff as well. I'm not really pushing anything crazy heavy at the moment either, other than bench. And we kind of decided to push bench before we decided I was gonna do a deficit. So I couldn't really say how it's impacting squats and deads. I will say, not that it was asking the question, but with bench as well, I don't think it's really having an impact, at least not yet. It has only been 3 and a bit weeks, let's be honest. It's not been very long. Granted, I've dropped a lot of weight in that 3 and a bit weeks. Like, I've dropped basically 4 kilos in that time. But yeah, so far, not really noticed anything. And I'm gonna link this into the next question as well. But essentially, as long as I'm fueling my training, I'm fine, and making sure that I eat something that kind of bloats me a little bit just before I come out in the gym, then I generally feel pretty good. Next question, tips for sticking with a deficit. So I actually answered this on my story and it was a lot more concise than how I'm speaking now. So let me load it up. I put like 5 bullet points. So number 1, I've just come past it. Number 1, always have food prepped in the fridge, ready to go, so that you don't have to stand over the oven and cook it, basically. 2, when you are cooking, cook your meals in bulk as the week goes on, rather than setting aside one day, one time to meal prep everything in one go, because that's a lot more overwhelming. And I think most people, especially from my experience as a nutrition coach, most people would rather just, let's say you're cooking dinner on a Monday, cook up 4 or 5 portions rather than just one. And then you can keep eating that during the week. And then if you have time, like on Tuesday, Wednesday, do the same thing again. And then you can just essentially keep stocking up the fridge as the week goes on, rather than doing this massive, overwhelming meal prep afternoon on like a Sunday. Some people find that works better for them, but I personally said, like what I put on my story, cook meals in bulk as the week goes on, rather than meal prepping in one big go. Most people, in my experience, find that a much easier way to keep the fridge stocked up with meals. Number 3, bulk up your meals. This one, you just do this. Like, unless you're in a major surplus and you're struggling to get your food in, bulk up your meals with high volume, low calorie foods, aka vegetables. A lot of fiber as well is really important. Like, I'm putting a lot of beans and lentils and stuff in my meals too. But adding veg into your meals to bulk them up. Like, one of my staple meals at the moment is a lean type of mince, whether that's beef, pork, turkey, whatever I've kind of got, whatever I fancy, with potatoes. Lots of like herbs and stuff on those potatoes as well, just to make them actually taste nice. And then I'm bulking it up with things like broad beans, peas, carrots, onion. Like, bulk your meal up. No, don't need to say any more on that. Number 4, take care of externals: sleep, stress, hydration, just overall recovery. Tick all of the boxes that you can, and it will make your life so much easier, because the better you feel overall, the easier it's going to be to stick to your deficit. And things like sleep and stress have a huge, huge impact on our appetite anyway, as well as like cortisol levels. Our body will hold on to things more if we are more stressed, if we're not sleeping enough. So it will also just help with you reaching your goal sooner as well. And then number 5, prioritize carbs around training. Just make sure that if you're on low calories, your carbs are going to be lower than what you're probably used to. Granted, you still need to have a decent amount of carbs to fuel your training, but prioritize having a good chunk of those pre-workout and some post-workout as well. Like, that's really, really important. So they were kind of the main, actually no, someone also asked, I said they were the main deficit questions. There is one more. Have you changed your training now you're in a deficit? No, we really haven't. I would say the focal point has changed a little bit for this block, but I don't think it's a result of the deficit. So basically, my coach wrote out this training block before I'd 100% decided I was going to do British bench, because British bench lines up with my week 4 of the next block anyway. So we were essentially just gonna do it as a train through. Like I don't need to worry about peaking my bench specifically for this competition. My bench is strong. My bench shows up pretty consistently end of blocks anyway, especially on a soft pad in a comp environment. Like I know my bench like does show up on the platform. So we were basically just gonna train through, and I'll do my squats and deadlifts either after comp on the same day or the next day, or however the comp weekend kind of lands. I will fit in my primary squats and deadlifts anyway. So yeah, we're not like majorly prioritizing bench, although we kind of are, but I think we would have anyway. But we haven't actually changed my training in terms of my structure or anything. The only thing that did get changed was last week when I was feeling a little bit rough, which I don't think was to do with the deficit. It was just to do with me, my energy levels and stuff, and not feeling well. Was on Wednesday last week. I just had 2 accessories to do at the gym, hamstring curl, adductor machine, had weighted planks as well, but basically I didn't really have the energy after my SVD to go to the gym. So I just decided I'll leave those for this week. I did my planks here anyway, and just did what I could here, and I just left the rest. And I spoke to my coach about it, and he basically said, look, right now, if you are feeling rough, obviously with the deficit and stuff as well, if there are any accessories that you don't find are super important for from a positional perspective that really help carry over to your main lifts, I don't mind you kind of making the decision to kind of leave certain things off. I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. It was just that one day when I just didn't have the energy to go to the gym. Also because the machines were out of use the week before. I already skipped them the week before because I literally couldn't do them. So it just felt silly kind of wasting my energy going to the gym to potentially then not even be able to use the machines anyway. So yeah, we haven't changed my training. The focal point for this week has changed a little bit. So on Sunday, I got my primary SPD end of block. The goal was to do an RP9 triple on squats, which is still the plan, but my coach has kind of given me roughly what he wants me to aim for, which is a bit lower than what I probably would have aimed for. And he has kind of said, you know, the main thing I want you to do this week is touch X kilos on bench. I'm not going to disclose the number. It's very ambitious. He was like, for squats and deadlifts, I'd rather you just focus on execution and essentially doing better than I did last week. My execution last week on deadlifts, for example, wasn't the best. So he wants me to essentially just focus on that this week. So the focal point has kind of been pulled back slightly from squats and deadlifts, but it hasn't really. We're just kind of capping this block because I don't need to be super strong right now. And I think that would have happened regardless of whether I was in this deficit or not. Do you ever have to move training days around? Tips for this. So I personally am very set in, I train these days, I train like non-negotiable, I train these days, like that's it. The only times I can recall that I've actually had to move training days are when I did Commonwealth and I was flying on one of the days that I was supposed to train. I trained early that morning, so that doesn't count. My friend's hen do year before last, I was away for 4 days, but I still wanted to get all my training in, so I just crammed my training in at the start of the week. So I just basically moved my training forwards there. They're like the only time, like I don't change my training days ever. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing. Like I have clients that quite regularly have to switch their training days around, or if they have quite busy schedules, we don't have set training days. We just have, like one of my clients, for example, she's a nurse, so she works 12-hour days. She's also a student, and she will essentially just do the days that fit her work schedule because her shifts and stuff change every single week and her weekly structure changes. So as long as she fits in her 3 days a week, we don't really mind what days they are. And I have other clients that have kind of a similar thing, similar jobs and stuff where they have to do the same thing, or life's just too busy. If they've got kids and stuff, they have to just move things around based on like life responsibilities. Like I have a life that is pretty well set up for powerlifting. That's kind of, I've built that for myself. I also work for myself, so I can change stuff around as I need to in terms of that. But yeah, tips for if you do have to change your days around, just kind of prioritize. Like with my clients and stuff, when we have to do this, like if I have a client that's going on holiday on their week 4 and they don't tell me about it until like week 2 of the block, I'll be like, okay, well, what days can you train? Oh, well, I could only fit in one session in like on the Wednesday before I leave. Okay, that's fine. What we'll do then is we'll just do your primary SPD on a Wednesday, and we just, that will do. We just kind of prioritize what we need to. As long as if you have a coach, give your coach enough notice, then your coach should be adapting that for you and telling you how to adapt things, because that is kind of what you're paying them for. If it's something that you want to, like, you're doing yourself, you're coaching yourself, you're taking ownership of it on your own, prioritize what you need to. And if you need to move days around because of illness or something, that's also fine, which I think was actually another question, but I'll kind of merge these two together. Just basically prioritize, use common sense. You don't want to be doing like a primary deadlift and then a primary squat the next day. Are you better off merging them into one session? Stuff like that. And that, I mean, isn't even a general rule either. Like everyone is different on what they feel good. Like I personally could not do primary deadlifts on a Friday and then primary squats on a Saturday. Like I would much rather and perform better just doing them both on the Saturday, for example. But yeah, if you need to shift your days around, you need to shift your days around. Like most people do not have the luxury of their schedule being adaptable around their training. Like most people's training has to fit around their life. Well, everyone's training has to fit around their life. Like we're not full-time athletes, 99.99% of powerlifters. So I hope that kind of answers the question. But yeah, I personally don't move my training days around. But to be honest, it's been a non-negotiable for me since before I even powerlifted, like when I first joined the gym and started going regularly. I mean, at the time I trained every single day and I wasn't going to miss it for anything. If I had to go first thing in the morning to fit it in, I would go first thing in the morning to fit it in. Training for me is non-negotiable. Like when I've had days where we travelled to Liverpool one day a few months ago and we had to leave here because I think I picked up my new car at like 11, and before that I had to, or it might have even been 10, and we had to leave for Liverpool by 12. I got up at like 5:30, trained 6 till 8, went to the gym, did my accessories, came back, showered, went and picked up my car, went straight to Liverpool. Like I will do what I need to get things done, if that makes sense, on the set days that they're planned for. But then I'm very funny about things like that. Like I have my days that I train and that's a non-negotiable. But there are lots of different ways. Like I don't want to give loads of tips on how to move your days around because I feel like it's very dependent on why you're moving your days around, what your schedule looks like, how many days a week you train. But it's not the end of the world if you have to move your days around. Like it's really not. I think one thing a lot of like the golden micro in powerlifting really emphasizes is doing the same thing on like the same days. So like your primary squats have to be on a Saturday. Like this is just an example. Like, let's say every week your primary, like we'll go with my structure. Okay, so my primary SBD is every Sunday. My secondary squats and deadlifts are on a Wednesday. My secondary bench is on a Tuesday. I feel that in such a weird order. Like my lightest day of the week is a Friday. It's not the end of the world if I have to move those around a little bit. Like it's really not. But I think the golden micro kind of, you want to create predictability in your training, which is why it's great to have, if you can repeat your training days every single week, then it's great too. And you will produce more predictable results from doing that. And you probably will milk more out of your programming from doing that. But that's where it's a coach's job to adapt around your lifestyle and your life and different factors. And actually, that's just not feasible for a lot of people. And like, depending on people's work schedules and stuff, like they may just have to change the days they train. And actually I think more of my clients have to regularly change the days that they train than don't. And they're still making amazing progress because they just fit in what they can when they can. And we just make sure we get all of the main workload done every single week. And that's enough to get that progress and create that stimulus needed. Hopefully that answers that. That was a lot of ramble. I'm so sorry. I talk way too long. Someone also asked, let me read. I've only got a couple more left to go. So yeah, the one that linked in to that was how to know when to push through illness or fatigue versus taking rest. Honestly, this is personal preference. I train pretty much no matter what. I had COVID a few years ago and I even trained through that. Granted, looking back, I shouldn't have because it did literally, like I was awful for way longer. I ended up getting a chest infection, which I think I also trained through. Not clever, but generally speaking, it's a personal, like I train through illness because I kind of like the predictability thing. Like I like things to be predictable. I'm pretty good. I'm very headstrong. I'm very good at compartmentalizing. Like if I'm not feeling 100%, I'm still going to go in and give my all to my session. And actually I often find training is a bit of a distraction from feeling rough, and it forces me to really lock in, and then I can still usually hit roughly the numbers I was aiming for. Anyway, obviously if you are feeling ill, then it's absolutely fine to pull stuff back and adapt as needed. But some people aren't like that. Some people struggle to do that, or they're more ill than what I get. Like, it just depends from person to person. But I'm also someone that doesn't really have sick days. I've never been that person. I've always been someone that just kind of pushes through. But yeah, I personally don't. Don't get me wrong, my clients, if they're feeling under the weather and they don't feel up to training, I'm not going to be that arsehole coach that's like, no, you have to, because you have to get everything done. You can't skip a session. I will just adapt their plan based on training that they miss. Like, it's very dependent from person to person. I remember someone once saying, if you're feeling ill, I think it was head and above, it's probably just like a bit of a cold, you can probably train through. And if it's like neck and below, then you should probably rest. But I don't know how true that is. I don't know. It's personal preference. In terms of fatigue, though, I think people are very scared of fatigue. And I think a lot of people, they're really trying not to build fatigue because they really, like, for example, like with the golden micro thing, people are so desperate to reduce as much fatigue as possible going into their primary lifts. that they're actually not getting the adaptation and they're not forcing what they need to be able to show up, because like a lot of people perform better with some level of built up fatigue, and also fatigue is what is driving that adaptation going forwards and stuff. So I think it's personal preference. On the fatigue front, I think unless it's like actual like chronic fatigue, if it's fatigue from training and like general life fatigue, then you're probably better off just training. And also, something I regularly remind people that I work with who, like, if they're getting quite stressed about things and stuff, like, I do say to them, you know, training is a form of self-care. Powerlifting specifically, training for a sport, being an athlete, no. But going to the gym, spending an hour, 2 hours, focusing on you and your own goals is self-care. And we have to remember why we got into the gym in the first place. Like, if you got into the gym because you enjoy training, you enjoy lifting, then where, like, that's been lost somewhere along the way if you're now seeing training as a stress. Like, obviously we're not always going to want to train every single day, and some days it is going to cause us a little bit of stress trying to fit everything in. But when you're there and you're in that place, in the gym, in that environment, try and see it as self-care and something to look after you and taking care of yourself. Hope that answers the question though. I can't, without more context, I can't say whether or not it's sensible to push through illness. It's very dependent from person to person. I also have the luxury of training at home. And even when I had COVID, I trained at my parents' and they literally just opened the garage for me and didn't see me. I literally let myself in and out of their garage and didn't spread the COVID around. Whereas obviously if I was training in a gym, especially like a powerlifting gym, people would have killed me if I turned up with COVID. So it also depends on where you train. Like, I have the luxury that I train 10 steps from my house. So it's not so bad if I train through illness. I think I'm just gonna do one more question because these are all fairly similar vein. Do you see coaching as a viable long-term career? Now, this is something that I've had mixed conversations with people. No one's ever specifically really asked me my thoughts on it, and I try not to really give my thoughts on it, because short answer is yes. But there is obviously more nuance to it than that, and I think it also depends. Powerlifting is still growing, so who knows what the coaching realm is going to look like in another 5, 10, 15 years. I think a lot of the coaches that have been full-time coaches for a while now are struggling to bring in as much business as they used to, but that's not because they're doing anything worse. That's because a lot of them, and I know some of them will admit this, they came up at a time when no one else was really doing it. So for them to fill their roster was fairly simple because it just wasn't a competitive market. Whereas now, more and more people like the idea of becoming a coach, are trying to become a coach, are coaching their friends for cheap and developing into this thing of, oh, maybe I want to do this full time. And the coaching market is saturated, but that's just because more people want to do it as a career. And that's then making it harder for some of these coaches that have been around for longer, that kind of just got lucky through word of mouth and timing of getting into the sport. They're not pushing to bring in new business the same way because they've never had to before. So they're now having to adapt to this changing market and kind of learn to do that. And it's just not natural for them. Whereas the coaches that have suddenly kind of surged and come up in the last couple of years, most of them, if you look, have in common the fact that they're very good at marketing themselves. They might not be as good as coaches, but they're good at marketing themselves. But equally, I know coaches that have been around a long time that are slowly kind of, not, I don't want to say falling off because they're not, but they're struggling to bring in as much business, or they're getting like slightly worse like reputations because they're not adapting like to their client base as well, because they've always just kind of worked with similar people and they've not got the people skills. And that applies to newer and older coaches, to be fair. To answer the question, yes, I do think it is, but I think a big part of being a coach for the long term is helping your lifters prioritize longevity. Now, don't get me wrong, people aren't always going to want to powerlift. At some point, they're probably going to change their priorities, not really want to do it anymore. If your market, for example, is younger lifters, junior lifters, uni lifters, a lot of them, when they go into the workforce, they might take a bit of a break. Like, we see it all the time. They take a break, they might come back in a few years, but they're not going to be coached during that break. Whereas like for me, a large part of my client base is people that are already in the workforce. They're like mid-20s up to like, I mean, I work with someone in their, well, 2 people in their 70s now. But like, I'm working essentially with more adults who they already fit training in when they come to me. Powerlifting is going to be a more long-term thing. And I think as a coach, you have to really help people navigate. Like, if you are working with, like, I'll use uni lifters as an example. you have to be there to help them navigate that transition into the working world. And that's where you have to allow them to be flexible with the days that they train, to not train as many days a week for a while, to shift the focus for a little bit. And yeah, I think coaching can be a viable long-term career if you are adaptable, if you are good at helping people focus on longevity rather than just constantly chasing this massive surge at the beginning. You need to know how to deal with people when that surge starts to die off. And you also need to help people stay healthy, stay in it for the long run. You also need to work on protecting your reputation. Like, you can't be seen, like, you need to treat it like a professional job. The amount of coaches that chase clout and they're like, someone posted something like rage baity the other day. I'm not going to name them or go into specifics. And it was essentially insulting people that like can't lift a certain amount. And I'm like, I get that you're posting this for rage bait. Like, fine, whatever it is meant to be as a joke. Like, I'm not holding that against you. But that means you're basically shitting on people that you deem as weak that then aren't going to probably want to come to you. And that doesn't look professional either for people that do want to come to you. Like, if you can be professional, if you can keep learning, if you can adapt and focus on that longevity for your lifters, then I think you can make coaching a long-term viable career. You just have to make sure that obviously you keep growing with, well, not growing, but like you keep developing with the sport, if that makes sense. That's all I'm going to say on that. I need to start training. The room is kind of heating up. It's still very cold out here. Got squats, bench, deadlift, both set loads, pretty light. Squats, I think I got a triple at 155 and a triple at 165, and then 7 at RP6, which is the load I get to pick, which I'll probably be like 154, and then descending 7s after that. So it shouldn't take me too long. Bench and deadlifts, I know I can get through both of those in literally like 15, 20 minutes, so just need to get squats done. I will show you guys my heaviest lifts.
I'll be there at the after party. Show up looking like a zombie. It don't matter, nobody stop me. I'll be there, just tell me where. Damn, I'm a long way home at a split road. Gotta make a choice, do I sober up? Am I tryna keep it going to be continued, or am I tryna lose? Gonna keep moving now. I don't think I wanna leave at a tough week. Gotta realize this is what I need. Don't got the time to be counting sheep. It's too late, I'm in too deep. Don't wanna contemplate, overcomplicate this. And I made my choice, wanna see what's going on. I'll be there at the after party. Show up looking like a zombie. It don't matter, nobody stop me. I'll be there, I'll be there. I'll be there at the after party. Show up looking like a zombie. It don't matter, nobody stop me. I'll be there, just tell me where. Just tell me where. Ay, oh no, 머뭇거릴 시간 없어. 필수적인, this is my only answer. Yeah, my body keeps telling me go. Wanna be stacking towers from downtown. I'll be on a roll. 머릿속엔 it's a rush hour. This, that, overtime, champagne shower. Step back, skip lines, yeah, I'm never going cold. 어디 가야 해, 알려줘. Don't wanna contemplate, overcomplicate this. And I made my choice.
I am so relieved that session is over. This is definitely my hardest session of the week, which is really annoying because nothing's actually heavy. It just takes a lot of energy to get through, and I don't know if that is the deficit or if it's just the fact that it's quite a long session. I got it done in about an hour and 20 minutes, so it's not too bad like in terms of actual length of the session, but I find squats are fine, but when I do my first set of 7 after my ascending triples, the first set of 7 is always hard, but like RP6 hard, so it's not like, it's heavy enough I have to concentrate to make it in RP6, I guess is what I'm saying. And then I'm like, all right, perfect, we'll take some load off, the next ones will be easier, it's fine. But then the next ones feel just as hard. But it's fine, I got through them, and I just think by the time I finished all those squats, my energy is always quite zapped. That could be the deficit. It could also just be squat 7 suck. But I do think it probably is the deficit, to be honest, because of the fact that I've always been a bit of a volume merchant on squats. Like, my squats always been really good with volume. I'm very strong when it comes to volume. I've always programmed myself loads of volume. So like descending 7s isn't something that should be hard for me, but it is. Got through it though. It's just one of those things where you have to just tick the boxes and just keep going. Bench is super light, 5 to 85. They actually felt really good tonight, better than they normally do. But again, energy levels were just pretty low at that point. And then I will say sumo felt awful until the last set. But one thing I will note from today's session though is I was struggling mentally to really zone in. Like, not that I wasn't trying or that I wasn't like somewhat focused. I couldn't get like, I guess, lost in the moment, like lost in the music, lost, like distracted, like just having fun. Like I struggled to get into that mindset, which is when I perform my best. So it is what it is. Like it wasn't a bad session at all. And actually my final set of deadlifts, which is the one that I filmed on my camera, felt by far the best. But by that point I was kind of having fun. So I think that's just all it was. Overall it wasn't bad though. No complaints from me. Hopefully Lewis maybe reduces my 7s to like 6s or 5s next block. I don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, no complaints. It was actually fine. I'm going to stop talking now and wrap the video up here. So thank you very much if you've made it to the end. I know I did a bit of a Q&A at the start, but if there's any questions you have, whether that's around training, programming, competitions, anything to do with powerlifting, nutrition, sports nutrition, leave them in the comments down below and I will get back to you guys in a future video. But yeah, thank you very much if you made it to the end. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe and I'll see you in a few days for the next one.
See what's going on. I'll be there at the after party. Show up looking like a zombie. It don't matter, nobody stop me.